inner peace, self-acceptance, a recovered self-esteem, a sense of vision, fullness, embodiment, plenitude. These are themes that I've been exploring a lot recently in relation to INFJs. And I want to give you another little story, a little narrative that can help make sense of this. There's a hole in the INFJ self. This hole is alienation. Okay? That is the ontological gap that separates us from the world. We are never in the real because of this gap. And we spend our entire lives trying to fill this gap. And there's different ways of going about it. Okay? There's 3 ways, I think, that you can go about it. 2 ways that are not so good, and 1 way that is the right way, I believe. The first not so good way, of course, is to pretend there is no gap. And that leads to pure reliance on an NI worldview that is solipsistic and leads further and further down a retreat into the self. And honestly, the outcome, even if it might take a long time, is nihilism. Is nihilism due to too much disconnection from external reality. Okay? The other strategy that is also suboptimal is to believe that the gap can be filled. So it's kind of the opposite. The first one is to convince oneself there's no gap. There's no alienation, in a way. Because if you live entirely within NI, you don't have to deal with alienation. You're acting as if the external world doesn't really exist, with its demands, its rules and norms, its responsibilities and all that. The more sort of neurotic, adaptive, submissive approach is to convince oneself, usually through an overblown ego ideal, that one day my vision will be whole, one day my vision will be full, and I will have solved everything. This can be pursued through the super egoic functions, namely FE and TI. FE usually through recognition by my peers. TI is more so by the careful elaboration of my vision in interaction with some recognition by my peers. But there is a constant state of dissatisfaction that is inevitable because, in this case, there is the belief that the gap can be filled. And since it's actually never filled, the frustration is constant. And the frustration in being constant obviously decreases your quality of life. It also decreases your self-esteem. It can lead either to a low self-esteem or to certain kinds of false selves, where one embraces a false self where the self is full. Okay? Because a way that an INFJ can deal with the idea of having a hole in the self, the hole of alienation, is to pretend there is no hole by embracing a false self. That's another way of pretending there's no hole. Embracing a false self from whom either there's no hole or there is the vision of a future where the hole is filled, where there's no more gaps. Now, in the solipsistic case, you get nihilistic withdrawal at the end of the journey. In the adaptive submissive case, you get a kind of frustrated envy or a frustrated elitism, right? Envy of those that you think are achieving what you're not achieving, which is of course an illusion. Or elitism in the sense that you are doing things that you're like a moral hero in your suffering and your inability to fill the hole, to plug the gap, and others are not doing that, and you compare yourself to them. There's still an FETI dynamic here at play. So the way to proper spiritualization, my friend, is to actually accept that there is a gap, and that this gap is not only inevitable, impossible to fill, but that's what defines you and what makes you original. It's what makes you original. It's not just what makes you original, it's also what keeps you going. Keeps you going in a manner that is flow, in a manner that is ocean. You know, in a perfect container, the water is not flowing. There needs to be holes, there needs to be gaps, there needs to be openings for the oceanic water to flow. Always remember that in a full container with no holes, there is no movement, there's no desire. There's only death at the end of the journey. Sleep and death at the end of the journey. So the fact that our desire keeps us going toward a goal that is elusive, but it's in its very elusiveness is keeping us move forward, is our own kind of anti-dominant heroism. And once you make peace with this idea, you will be leading a life that is essentially a balanced life between the different functions, a life of flow, a life of oceanic living, a life where you can seize the interstices when they do appear, and you don't mind them not appearing if they don't appear for a while. So hopefully this narrative was interesting to you guys and it made some sense. Okay, let me know in the comments and give me a like if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget, I've written 2 books on the INFJ. The Infinite Soul is the latest one, which it's called INFJ Life in the Modern World. Looks at how INFJs can lead purposeful, productive, meaningful lives in this world, even though we see it very often as kind of hostile, and there's reasons for that. How to not compromise, how to combine authenticity and adaptation. This is the book to get. The first link below to the book, check the reviews, it's helped a lot of people. So has this one, The Ecstatic Soul, a new look at the INFJ personality, which is the deepest investigation into the INFJ mind that you will find online. If you want the deepest understanding of the INFJ that you will ever come across, you should get The Ecstatic Soul. And finally, guys, don't forget that Patreon is the lifeblood of my channel. So if you'd like to support me on Patreon, you get access to Discords, you get access to bonus videos every 2 weeks where I go in depth into particular topics. Other perks as well. You help me keep going with this channel. I could not do it without you. So I thank you very much. The link is below, and I talk to you soon, guys. Bye-bye.